Baldoni's lawyer wrote, evidence of Lively's pre-existing reputation is not being offered for the truth that she's a mean girl bully, difficult to work with, or tone deaf, but to establish Lively's reputation prior to the alleged smear campaign to show that defendants' alleged conduct did not cause further harm to her existing reputation.
The court documents hit the table, and the room went silent. Blake Lively's legal team thought they were going to bury Justin Baldoni, but instead they accidentally handed over the receipts that might end her career. We are talking about text messages, expert depositions, and financial records that paint a picture of a Hollywood star who has completely lost control of the narrative. Blake isn't just upset, she is reportedly raging because the evidence isn't supporting her story. For months, she claimed she was the victim of a calculated smear campaign, but these new filings suggest the call is coming from inside the house. The mask is officially off, and the fallout is starting to look permanent.
Another promise was no pet monkey. Yeah. Chuck has a matching pet monkey with coordinating outfits, and I was like, I would love to be part of the show, but I can't act with a monkey. And then I got a few of them.
This isn't just another round of internet rumors or TikTok theories. We are deep in a high-stakes legal battle in New York, where $161 million is on the line. Blake is swinging for the fences, accusing Baldoni of orchestrating a global campaign to label her a mean girl. But Baldoni's defense team just dropped a tactical nuke in the form of a legal brief. They aren't trying to prove she's a bully for the sake of it. They're proving that her reputation was already damaged long before they ever met. They are arguing that you can't sue someone for ruining a reputation that was already in the gutter. It is a cold, calculated move that has Blake absolutely exploding behind the scenes.
I hope to never, ever, ever be complacent, because I think that that's one of the most tragic things that I could ever.
The evidence being pulled into the light goes all the way back to 2007 on the set of Gossip Girl. While the world saw Serena and Blair as best friends, the reality was a nightmare. Former showrunners have now come forward to confirm that Blake and Leighton Meester avoided each other at all costs the second the cameras stopped rolling. But it wasn't just typical co-star tension. The documents point to a specific pattern of behavior where Blake allegedly used her status to assert dominance over anyone she perceived as a threat. It turns out the Mean Girl label wasn't invented by a PR team in 2024. It has been trailing her like a shadow for nearly 2 decades of her professional life.
I'm one of 5 kids. My husband's one of 4, so, we are officially breeders. You can go on our website and we will give you some of our children.
One of the most damning pieces of footage resurfacing in this court case involves a live interview where Blake looked Leighton Meester in the eye and called her a monkey. When the room went cold and the tension became thick enough to cut with a knife, Blake tried to play the joke card. This is a tactic her opponents say she has used her entire career. Say something cruel, gauge the reaction, and then hide behind sarcasm when people get uncomfortable. It is a defense mechanism that worked for years when she was the golden girl of the CW, but in a court of law, it is being presented as documented evidence of a long-standing personality trait that she can no longer deny.
First of all, congrats on your little bump.
It gets significantly darker when you look at the comments Blake made regarding Leighton's family history. Leighton Meester's mother was actually incarcerated when she was born, a deeply personal trauma that Leighton has been open about. Yet, footage has emerged of Blake making jokes about people who start their lives in cages. Context matters, and using a colleague's family trauma as a punchline isn't just insensitive, it is predatory. Baldoni's legal team is using these moments to show that Blake has a history of digging into the vulnerabilities of others to maintain her own sense of superiority. This isn't a smear campaign, it is a highlight reel of her own past choices.
He said, Ms. Lively has a track record of brands that have not succeeded. She is seeking pie-in-the-sky damages.
The court documents also highlight a disturbing trend of physical dominance on red carpets. Footage shows Blake literally grabbing Leighton and repositioning her, dragging her around the frame like a prop to ensure she got the dominant shot. It didn't look like a friendly interaction between friends, it looked like a territory display. Experts testifying in the case suggest this need for absolute control extended to every project she touched, including the recent disaster with It Ends With Us. She wasn't just an actress. She was trying to be the director, the producer, and the marketing lead, often at the expense of the people who were actually hired to do those jobs.
Magnus.
Yes.
When I saw you earlier, you said, "Oh, let me get a shot." And I thought you meant of alcohol, but you meant a photograph. So guess what? Time to put up.
And what are we drinking?
Aviation American Gin, who's owned by a very, very sexy man, who also happens to be my husband.
Fast forward to 2016, and the mask slipped again during a press junket that has now become a central piece of evidence. Blake referred to herself and her husband as breeders and joked about giving their children away on a website. While she likely thought she was being witty and edgy, the footage shows her treating working professionals like they didn't deserve basic respect. She used sarcasm as a weapon to belittle journalists who were just trying to do their jobs. This pattern of behavior is exactly what Baldoni's team is using to dismantle her lawsuit. They are showing the jury that people didn't need a PR campaign to dislike her. They just needed to watch her interviews.
Fans slam Blake Lively for bullying Kate Middleton as she pokes fun at Photoshop fail. Now, this is the key word. It says it in the headline. Blake Lively.
The situation reached a breaking point during the Kate Gate scandal in early 2024, while Princess Catherine was privately battling cancer and dealing with a massive Photoshop controversy. Blake saw a marketing opportunity. She used her brand, Betty Buzz, to mock the princess's Photoshop fail, just to sell a few bottles of mixer. Think about the level of detachment required to look at a woman fighting for her life and think, how can I turn this into a joke for my Instagram feed? This moment was brought up specifically in the New York pre-trial hearing as proof that Blake's reputation issues are self-inflicted. She was mocking a vulnerable woman months before she ever met Baldoni.
People will deliver what she wants to hear because they're getting a check from her legal.
When the backlash for the Kate Middleton post hit, Blake tried to claim she was being bullied, but the public wasn't buying it. Baldoni's lawyers are making the case that this was the real turning point for her reputation. She wants the court to believe that Justin made the world hate her, but the timeline doesn't lie. She was already alienating her audience by being tone deaf and insensitive, long before the movie press tour even started. Every time she tries to point the finger at a conspiracy, the defense points to a social media post or an interview she did of her own free will. The house of cards is falling, and the wind is coming from her own direction.
The worse it looks.
Well, you know what? You may be asked to join Baldoni's legal team because his lawyers have made similar arguments saying that Blake Lively has a poor track record of running businesses and that they fail because bully people.
So
now let's talk about the money, because the financial demands in this lawsuit are bordering on the delusional. Blake is asking for $161 million in damages. To put that in perspective, that is more than some small countries have in their entire budget. Her legal team is claiming she lost between $132 and $142 million in future acting earnings because of this supposed smear campaign. They are projecting that she was about to become the highest paid actress in history. But the court just saw her actual tax records, and the numbers tell a very different story. Over the last 8 years, she has averaged about $2.5 million per movie. The math simply isn't adding up.
That's a very big distinction that the jury's going to be told. Like, listen, just because we're admitting she complained about X doesn't mean X was actually happening. It just means we shouldn't punish her for saying X.
Justin Baldoni's lawyers are calling this pie-in-the-sky math, and they aren't wrong. You can't sue someone for money you were never going to make in the first place. They pointed out that her team is projecting she would earn 6 times her historical average over the next 5 years. It is a desperate attempt to inflate the value of the lawsuit to force a settlement, but Baldoni isn't backing down. He is standing his ground and letting the financial experts tear her claims apart. It is becoming increasingly clear that this lawsuit isn't about seeking justice. It is about trying to recover losses from a career that was already starting to stagnate.
Isabel Ferrer did not raise complaints with Wayfair at all and had previously given very positive feedback about her experience, including her interactions with Justin and the film's intimacy.
The absurdity reaches a new level with the $35 million she is claiming for a potential sequel. She wants to be paid for a movie that doesn't even have a script, a contract, or a green light. In the legal world, this is known as highly speculative damages, and judges usually toss this stuff out before it even reaches a jury. But Blake is doubling down. She is also blaming Justin for the failure of her hair care line and her beverage brand, claiming his actions cost her another $71 million. However, her own records show that Betty Buzz was already struggling and pivoting to alcohol because the original mixers weren't selling. It wasn't a smear campaign. It was a bad business model.
The first email that Colleen replied with, and it does say, I'm going to skip right to the third paragraph where it says, I've sold several film options, and I realize not all of them get made, and I'm okay with that. One of the film options was not a great experience.
One of the most shocking revelations in the financial docs is that Blake actually walked away from a guaranteed $30 million. She was entitled to a massive bonus for It Ends With Us, but she reportedly refused to sign her final agreement after a workplace tantrum. Think about that for a second. She literally threw away $30 million out of sheer stubbornness and pride because she couldn't handle the established system. Now, she's sitting in a courtroom demanding that Justin Baldoni pay her back for the money she chose to forfeit herself. It is a level of entitlement that has left legal experts and industry insiders completely stunned.
If I were to offer a remedy to the human condition, it would be
Behind the scenes, Blake and Ryan Reynolds have reportedly spent an eye-watering $50 million on legal fees and reputation management. They have hired armies of lawyers and crisis consultants to try and flip the script. There are even strong indications that they deployed bot farms to flood the internet with positive comments about Blake while attacking Justin, but all that money hasn't changed the facts. The more they fight, the more the public sees them as out-of-touch power players trying to crush a smaller director. They are pouring money into a hole that is only getting deeper, and the court documents are exposing every single cent of it. The battle of the expert witnesses has become a centerpiece of the trial. Blake's team wants to prove that the mean girl mentions online were artificially generated by Justin's PR team. They want to convince the court that the hate was manufactured. But Justin's side brought in an AI marketing specialist who can scientifically track how bot farms actually operate. They are prepared to show that if anyone was manipulating the narrative with fake traffic, it was likely coming from Blake's side. It is a high-tech game of chess where the data is starting to favor the director. The digital trail is hard to hide, and it is leading straight back to the Reynolds camp. Then there is the issue of the alliances. Blake tried to build a front against Justin by recruiting people like Isabella Ferrara, the young actress who played the junior version of her character. Blake even hosted sleepovers to bond with the girl, which some are calling a calculated move to secure a friendly witness. However, the court documents revealed that Isabella was actually sending grateful texts to Justin throughout the entire filming process. She never raised a single complaint and actually praised his conduct during the film's most sensitive scenes. This completely undermines Blake's narrative that Justin was a nightmare to work with on set. Even Colleen Hoover, the author of the book, seems to be caught in the middle of a transactional friendship. Initially, Colleen switched sides to support Blake after Justin made a creative decision she didn't like. Justin wanted to move the story forward by leaving a certain character out of the sequel to show the victim's true growth. Colleen, however, wanted that character kept in because it meant more money for future books and movies. She chose the paycheck over the message and helped Blake push Justin out. But as soon as the public backlash hit, Colleen went completely silent and ghosted Blake. When things got hard, the alliance crumbled instantly. Perhaps the most telling sign that the ship is sinking is the behavior of Ryan Reynolds himself. Initially, he was the primary general in this war, funding the legal bills and even rewriting parts of the movie to suit Blake's vision. But as the evidence has started to leak and the Kate Gate scandal made them look truly bad, Ryan has begun to create distance. He has been spotted showing up alone at major events in Los Angeles, looking visibly uncomfortable when journalists bring up the feud. He is a savvy businessman worth over $350 million, and he knows when a brand has become toxic. He is quietly backing away from the front lines. The shift on social media has been impossible to ignore. Ryan used to be the king of couple content, constantly posting about his wife and their perfect life, but that content has dried up almost entirely. He isn't associating his public image with hers right now, and industry insiders say that is a massive red flag. He understands damage control better than anyone in Hollywood, and he knows that staying tied to this sinking legal battle could drag his own reputation down with it. Even marital loyalty has its limits when $50 million and a global brand are at stake. He is playing the long game while Blake is stuck in the rage. The final nail in the coffin might have come from a source nobody expected. Comedian Zach Galifianakis just released a new special on Netflix, and he didn't hold back when it came to mocking Ryan Reynolds. This is significant because in Hollywood, comedy is often the first sign that someone's power has evaporated. Journalists who have been humiliated by Blake in the past are pointing out that when a comedian of that caliber feels safe enough to roast you on a global platform, your days of being an untouchable power couple are over. The industry is no longer intimidated by the Reynolds lively machine. They have become the punchline. At the end of the day, the court documents prove one undeniable truth. Blake Lively isn't raging because she was a victim of a conspiracy. She is raging because she finally got caught in a paper trail of her own making. The story she tried to sell the world, the one about the sweet, misunderstood actress being targeted by an evil director, has been dismantled by her own text messages, her own financial records, and her own past interviews. You can't sue the world for noticing who you really are. The labels she is fighting so hard to erase were earned brick by brick over a 20-year career, and no amount of money can fix that. This legal battle is far from over, but the damage is already done. The public has seen the math that doesn't add up, the alliances that were built on greed, and the husband who is slowly backing out of the room. Blake Lively's attempt to use the legal system to rewrite her own history has backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Instead of burying Justin Baldoni, she has accidentally buried her own carefully crafted image. The documents are public, the receipts are verified, and the world is finally seeing the reality behind the lifestyle brand. It is a cautionary tale about what happens when you believe your own hype for too long. As the trial moves forward, the entertainment world is watching with bated breath. This case has become about much more than just a movie feud. It is a referendum on Hollywood power and accountability. Can a megastar really use a $50 million war chest to silence the truth? Based on what we've seen in these court docs, the answer is a resounding no. The evidence is simply too loud to be ignored. Whether she wins or loses the actual lawsuit, the court of public opinion has already delivered its verdict. If you followed this saga this far, you're now an expert on the chaos. Hit that subscribe button for more deep dives, and I'll see you in the next one.